Welcome everyone. Today I'm going to do a video a little bit differently because I want to talk about the Integratron, which is found just outside of Joshua Tree, California. And I visited the Integratron when I went to the Stairways to Heaven conference back in October. And the reason I want to do this video is because we did a day visit up to the Integratron, and on my way up I was interested in, what might be located here that makes the Integratron unique. Is there an actual reason for its electrical function, as the creator of the Integratron, George Van Tassel, claimed? And the answer is, yeah, it's actually quite fascinating. And so I'm going to actually walk through a couple parts of this with you and talk about what the Integratron probably does and what it means, at least in terms of the electrical circuit from a very high standpoint. So first of all, the Integratron is this dome-shaped structure that has no metal nails of any sort built into it. It is designed to not create any interference with the electromagnetic field in this part of the world. And one of the reasons that George Van Tassel chose this location was because he was given the instructions for where and how and why to build this thing from an interaction with aliens who claim to be from Venus.
Built in 1960 by George Van Tassel, an aeronautical mechanic and flight inspector. The plans for the structure were, he claims, delivered to him by an alien traveler from the planet Venus. Van Tassel, who meditated at a location called Giant Rock, says that during one such session, the alien visitor landed its craft, took him on board, and both verbally and psychically communicated the plans for the Integratron, a physical rejuvenation device which used sound to alter the mind and body. He built this incredible structure on what he claims to be a geomagnetic anomaly which enhances the Integratron's alleged properties.
So we are solidly in the construct of the apocalypse, which had to do with Venus, and the entire structure of the area exists because of Venus and the apocalypse itself, dropping material into the area. And most fascinating about the start of this story, other than, its origins with another miner, the most fascinating parts of the story begin with this rock that we find called Giant Rock. This giant rock is located in California's Mojave Desert. It is roughly 7 stories high and covers almost 6,000 square feet. Now, some say it's the largest freestanding boulder in the world. Now, if you've done my video, if you've watched my video on the formation of Joshua Tree National Forest, right, I make the argument that this entire forest and the entire area is made up of rubble from the surface of Venus. And Giant Rock is quite literally just that. It is a giant boulder that was dropped in place from the surface of Venus. But that's not what makes Giant Rock so interesting. What makes Giant Rock so interesting is that it sits in a very specific location next to a rock formation that is in the shape of a C. Now, I have lots of research yet to figure out exactly why this type of formation exists. But when you see this C shape, this was explained by Andy Hall to me as being caused by the electromagnetic pinch of the magnetic field. So the magnetic field, the stronger and harder the field is, the more of a C it will create. Now there are 2 types of forces. One is a force of attraction and one is a force of repelling, right? And so the one that attracts will form mountains, and that's what you have here just north of the Integratron in California. You have a C node, and Giant Rock is located right on the backside of that C. And so it is in a very specific space in the electrical circuit of the planet. I can't make its location up, but what I can do is I can show you another example of what this rock represents, because not only does this represent a giant, what people think might be the largest freestanding boulder on the planet, not only does it represent a giant rock in the middle of nowhere, But this C shape itself reminded me of a field trip that I had meant to take this year to Lake Itasca in northern Minnesota. And so we're going to take a quick travel from this sea rock all the way over to Lake Itasca, Minnesota, which is a sea lake. And so where the rock at the front side of Big Rock formed a C in the shape of a mountain, the opposite formation, which is to say a lake, a C-shaped lake, formed in Minnesota. Now these both formed in the apocalypse, but the cathode represents the C shape at Giant Rock. And an anode is what Lake Itasca represents in Minnesota. And we know that because anodes give up a charged particle. So things move away from the anode, things move to the cathode. Cathodes will attract rock to them, or charge to them, and anodes will discharge the rock from them. And so you have a C shape in both of these. One is a mountain and one is a lake. Now here's the thing about Lake Itasca and why this is so important to understand. Lake Itasca is the headwaters of the Mississippi River, the largest river in North America. And if you don't know this, and very few people do unless you visited it, the Mississippi River begins by going north. And so just as you have this giant rock at the backside of the sea in the Joshua Tree area, in Minnesota, you have the headwaters. You have a waterway instead of a rock at the backside of the sea. So what's really important next while we're here is that I want to point to one very specific location here in Minnesota that is associated with this C shape and explains in a way the Integratron. So on the southwest side, there is this long, sort of whitish lake. But right in the southeast corner of this lake, we have this round, bolused lake. This lake and its shape is the anode affectation in relation to the cathode affectation created, well, for the Integratron. And you have this large lake, and at the end of this large lake, you have this little bowl, and in that bowl, there is a circular hole created by the electromagnetic forces of the Earth. Still active to this day, as we can see in the foliage. The change in the environment in this area exists because there's still an electromagnetic force rolling through that area. The Integratron is placed in the exact same area in relation in California, except instead of being next to a lake, it's next to a mountain. Mountain, Integratron, lake, hole in a lake. This is how we know that the location of the Integratron is a valid location for a machine of whatever sort these aliens suggested that he built it on. Now, here's the really unique thing about this entire thing. We're going to go look at a webpage here that talks about what happened here. And one of the things that's very interesting about the George Van Tassel story is it says that in August of 1953, he said that a spaceship from Venus landed and invited him aboard. During this encounter, he was given a formula by aliens named Sol Ganda and Sandanda. Now, I've done a lot of work on, utilizing the Proto-Indo-European languages to define mythology. And one of the things about the UFO phenomenon that we aren't really ready to grasp, but we should, is that these beings that visited us, that are visiting us, are not visiting us from other planets in the universe. These are forces of the universe manifesting here, and they utilize our language as much as we do. And so if you look at the first name, Solganda, Sol is Sanskrit, or actually it's Latin, but it translates in Sanskrit as well, means sun. And not only does the Sol mean sun, but Ganda is a Sanskrit word meaning beautiful. Sun beautiful, right? That's the first one. And the second one calls itself Sandanda. Now, san in most Proto-Indo-European languages means to gain, to acquire, or to obtain, whereas danda means stick or staff, to obtain a stick or a staff. When we look at these round circular shapes in the ground formed in Minnesota, and we understand that this exact same type of formation exists exactly where the Integratron is placed, we're talking about a field of electromagnetism that shapes itself like a stick or a staff from the Integratron with the sun. Solganda means beautiful sun, and Sandanda means the column of electromagnetism that connects the Integratron to the sun. These are like describing, the sun is an anode and a stick that connects it to the cathode, and the cathode is the Integratron. If you want to know why, when George Van Tassel died, they came in and stripped the place. They being, I believe they were government people, came in and stripped the place. Took all of the equipment, took all of the wiring, and why it was never finished as a working machine, it's because he was about to build a profoundly different type of technology. A type of technology that can't be built anywhere else in the world. A type of technology that would take advantage of the Earth's electromagnetic field and its connection with the sun in order to produce effects that were said to reverse aging, allow people to time travel. I wouldn't be surprised if the Integratron acted like the temple at Delphi and even gave people access to prophecy and knowledge. The Integratron was an incredible stop on our trip, and it yielded a far larger surprise than I had ever expected to find there. And the biggest one is that Venus sent a message through two aliens that we can build machines still, that there are still places on Earth where the electromagnetic field is so subtle and yet so accessible that were we to just have a little help and understand where they are and what we need to do, we could reactivate them. Nobody gives you analysis like Dr. Stinky McDougal. Click that like, share, and subscribe button. Leave me your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think the Integratron is a real machine? Do you think aliens really came and gave George Van Tassel the information? Do you think it's possible for us to turn the machine back on? Peace out.
Did you stop at the new gift shop?
Oh, yeah, no. I got a coffee mug. I got a bunch of whole stuff. I stopped into the gift shop. It was a good time. Yeah. I should take you guys some time. George went.